Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and if you're a frequent viewer of L'Chaim, you know that one of the passions I have outside of all things Jewish and theater is sports. And one of the things I feel is true about sports is in some way it is a universal language. You know, there are certain things in the world which join people together, bond people together. Music is one of them. Art somehow can bring people together, even if they don't speak the same language, if they're from different cultures. And the same thing is true about sports. There's something about sports that transcends politics and transcends community. And you can sometimes see young people who speak different languages, who come from different places on earth, and they share a soccer game. And for one moment, they're all one. Sports has an incredible bonding ability that transcends difference that sometimes separates people from people. So good for sports. And you know, every now and then you'll hear people say that when it comes to Jews in sports, if you were to write a book about Jews in sports, the book would be very thin. Although that's really not true. It's not simply Hank Greenberg and Sandy Koufax and Sid Glickman. There are people who are extraordinary athletes who've been part of the Jewish world. And of course, in the state of Israel, you have extraordinary athletes who were part of the Olympic teams and also are playing professional basketball in the state of Israel. But all of this pales in comparison to one Jewish endeavor, the Maccabi Games. There are Jews who know very little about Judaism. They know about the Maccabi Games because they represent something extraordinary in the sweep of the Jewish people right down to today and present-day Jewish life. And what an honor I have today. I am sitting with Ron Carner, President of Maccabi USA. Ron is a passionate advocate and volunteer for Maccabi USA Sports for Israel. He's been involved with the organization since 1986, serving as president of Maccabi USA Sports for Israel since 2009. And Ron, it is such a wonderful thing to have you sitting here, a pleasure to be sitting with you at this table. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Mark, for asking me to come.
I want to talk about the Maccabi Games, but first I want to talk about you because it's rare that I get to talk to somebody who has the experience and is now making the contribution you're making to Jewish life. Where were you born, Ron?
I'm a Brooklyn boy.
Are you?
One of those lucky kids.
What was the address? Which street?
Bedford Avenue and Kings Highway, James Madison High School, PS 197.
Oh, my goodness. So did you grow up a Brooklyn Dodger fan?
Of course. Absolutely.
Who are your heroes?
Jackie Robinson, #1, Roy Campanella, Duke Snyder, all. And they all became friends for a while, too.
No.
I had the opportunity to play ball with them back in the early 80s.
Oh, I am green. Am I green? Ron, I'm just green. But you and I share something. And by the way, off camera, it turns out we share a great deal. But I have spoken very many times here on L'Chaim about the incredible impact Jackie Robinson had on me personally. And I had one of the most wonderful honors I had was to do a feature interview with his widow, Rachel Robinson, who is, you know, I believe she's the first woman of Major League Baseball, and she's an extraordinary human being. But Jackie Robinson had a profound impact on me throughout my entire life. And I grew up, you know, a rabid Dodger fan. And so the Pee Wee Reeses and the Gil Hodgeses and the Roy Campanellas and all of these.
What did Frillo hit in 1953?
No, I don't know. 300 something. What did he hit?
344.
What position did he play?
Right field, of course.
What was his right arm called?
The Reading rifle.
Okay, you passed your test. Good enough. Do you remember the Knothole Gang?
Of course, I've been telling stories about the Knothole Gang and Carl Furillo for years. He told me a great story, but I'll tell you another time.
Okay. But you really got to meet these guys?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Jackie I met, but Jackie was a good friend. He was a good friend of a very close friend of mine, Sig Zeises, who his family lived with Jackie. Excuse me, Jackie lived with his family for a short while. Yeah.
When you hear me say that Jackie Robinson had an influence on me as a Jew he had an influence on me. Do you feel in any way he also influenced who you became?
Absolutely. I remember as a child seeing the Jackie Robinson story in the Avalon Movie Theater on Kings Highway by myself. I went alone. No one. I think I was about 9 years of age, 10 years of age, and I remember sitting in that theater. And he played himself in that movie. And I remember crying, and I remember saying to myself, "Why am I crying?" You know, this is. And then I realized, even though I was 9 to 11, I don't remember how old I was at the time, and I remember that it had a profound effect upon me.
Why were you crying?
Because he was a minority, and even though I was growing up in an area where I was not in the minority, I knew from experience that we were the minority, that the Jews were the minority, and that we had experienced similar behavior from others that he was experiencing.
Yes.
He and his fellow ball players.
Yes. We identified with the black struggle as Jews, yes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I think it's morphed into something else, but
Yes.
it's something else.
Who were your parents? What were their names?
Mo and Helen Carner.
Okay, Mo and Helen?
Both were born in the United States.
Really?
Unusual,
Very
yes.
nice. Did you have siblings?
Yes, my brother Bruce. He passed away in 1979.
Older or younger?
Older.
Okay, so you were the younger of two.
I was the younger of two.
Okay, and Ron, describe the shape and feel of your Jewish home. In other words, what kind of Jewishness did they try to impart for you and your brother?
Well, we were a non-Orthodox family, but we were Jewish people. My parents spoke Yiddish when they didn't want me to know what they were talking about. That's like everybody else who from my generation. And of course, that's something I never did get the opportunity to learn. But the fact that we were growing in Brooklyn, and it was important to know that you were Jewish. It was important that you can identify as being a Jew. You know, my life was as being a Jew was also mixed in with sports and athletics.
Was it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I had friends, Italian friends and Irish friends, but mostly Jewish friends. But sports was such an important part of my life. It really shaped my my being. But it's not just sports. You mentioned it earlier. It's team sports, because the team sports creates the unity. The individual sports, yes, that's wonderful, it's nice, and you have teammates maybe who are competing individually, but it's the team sport that I've seen. I just came from a reunion from my college basketball team, right? Guys from the 58-59 Brandeis University team. We just had a reunion 10 days ago here in New York.
No
Some
kidding.
guys I haven't seen in 54 years, all right? And it was a spectacular evening.
So you played college basketball?
Yes, I did.
You were that good?
I was good. I wasn't that good, but I was
To
good.
play college ball, you had to be good.
Well,
you played in high school, first of all?
Oh, yeah, I played at a great high school team for Jamie Moskowitz at Madison High School in Brooklyn, New York. We came in third in the city of New York.
Well, who else went to Madison? It seems like
Marty Glickman
Marty
went to
Glickman, right?
Yes, Marty Glickman was at Madison.
Did you ever meet him?
I met Marty Glickman at an event. Yes, I did meet Marty in the 80s, shortly before he died. Yes.
Of course, known because he was one of the Jews who was not allowed to participate in the 1938 Olympics in Berlin.
In Berlin.
And then became really a world-class announcer of basketball, football, etc. And Marty Glickman was an enormous contribution to American sports here in this country.
And that documentary that was shown on
That's
HBO
right. Yes.
was very accurate and very well produced.
Yes.
And you know, we're going to have our European Maccabi Games in Berlin in July of 2015.
Yes, you know
and
what?
We would love to have the family somehow involved with us.
The Glickman family.
The Glickman family.
Yes, but this is out of sequence. But because
Okay,
you've said it, because you've said it, I want you to follow through.
Sure.
Tell me the plans you have. And you're now talking about the Maccabi Games, right?
Correct.
But there's an event that you have planned, which in some way is a contrast to the 1938 Berlin Games. Explain to our audience what you have in mind.
Well, let me give you a little bit of a background.
Please.
The Maccabi is held every 4 years in Israel. That's the Maccabi. There's only one time you use the word Maccabi, and that's that for those games. Maccabi is the organization. And every 4 years, in addition to the Maccabi, in between 4 years, we have the European Maccabi Games, we have the Pan American Maccabi Games. Now, this July of 15 will be the European Maccabi Games. 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, they were held in Vienna. And this time they're going to be in Berlin. Very, very important event in Vienna in 2011. And
why was that important?
Well, because the Austrians, of course, were known to be as anti-Semitic or worse than the Germans. I could tell you a story what happened at those games that was just overwhelming.
Tell me.
So the games in Vienna were held in July of 2011, and the opening ceremony was held in the municipal square where Hitler announced Anschluss, right there at the municipal square. So you have to picture the scene. There's 10,000 people sitting in the stands that were created for this event, for this opening ceremony. And we all remember the black and white film back in the 30s when Hitler was standing on that balcony and announcing Anschluss with the swastika hanging from that balcony. Well, here we are in 2011. There's 10,000 people in the stands. The president of the country, Heinz Fischer, stands to speak to all the people, and he apologizes to all the Jews for what happened. He apologizes, as does the mayor of Vienna. In marches 2,200, 2,500 people from about 18 nations for these European Maccabi Games. In marches the Israelis. 10,000 people stand to sing Hatikvah. And hanging from that balcony, that same balcony, is a 65-foot Star of David, the flag of Israel.
I get chills.
Probably one of the most moving moments of my life, much less my Maccabi life.
Where were you? I mean, literally, where were you?
In the audience.
And you were watching this.
We had marched in with the Americans. And
Did
then,
you?
Then yes, of course. And then I sat. Then I sat down.
Was that thrilling?
Well, of course.
No, don't say of course. It's thrilling, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. Very much so to march in to these games and to all the games, and of course into the Maccabi in Israel. It's
okay. And I want to make sure the audience understands. And this doesn't mean because you are what I'm about to say, you have a better status. But the fact of the matter is, you were an athlete. Athletics have been important in your life, and now you're marching in these games. You're surrounded by a community of athletes. And then you sit there and you watch this and you have a sense of history, Ron.
Absolutely.
It must have been chilling in the most wonderful way.
Prior to those games, I had difficulty getting people to come because they said, I don't want to go to Austria. I don't want to be there. And I said, you have to be here. You have to support the community. The community is who's putting these games on in conjunction with the Austrian government. They're the ones who's putting it on. You have to support them. So when this scene happened, I turned to Talia, my wife, and I said, this is why people should be here. This is what we do. This is why we're here, because of, and sports brings them here.
Yes.
And that's what's so exciting about this.
Talia, your wife, was with you, sitting with you?
Yes.
Did she walk in with you?
No, no.
Okay, but she sat with you?
Yes.
Did it move her?
Very much so, very much so.
Why do you think that's true?
For the very same reason. She understood the history. She understood the moment. She understood exactly what. Not everybody did. You know, interestingly enough, not every because we guess.
Did the Israelis get it?
I don't know. I wasn't sitting with the Israelis.
Okay,
they were in another
enough.
section, but I don't. I would presume they did. Okay. Certainly the older ones did.
And this was in what year again?
2011, July 14th, I believe it was 2011.
4 years later, 2015. What's going to happen?
Well, we'll be marching into a stadium in Berlin. It just so happens there's meetings going on this weekend in Berlin that for some reason our executive director is going to be there at the meeting. And they'll be discussing all these issues and all these points.
But something very similar you hope to happen there.
There's definitely going to be a point of view or a perspective that will reach out to those who it reached in Vienna. And we hope that that perspective will be something to do with the Glickman family, with the Marty Glickman family.
Okay.
With the Glickman who had been denied to participate in the relay in Berlin in 1936.
I said 38. 36 is right.
36
right.
Were the games. And that would be important to have them there. And I think it would be very great for us to be able to bring them. We will be bringing a gentleman by the name of David Meisner with us. He'll be 100 years of age in June.
Amazing.
He's a Holocaust survivor. He's a wonderful gentleman, and he will be, quote, swimming in the pool and to participate in a very
Ron,
important
isn't
manner.
it thrilling that you're able to help make this happen, and that now we're living in Jewish life where it does happen?
Very much so. And it's becoming a very important part of my life. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
That's why I've been doing it all these years.
Okay, so I want to take a step back and pick up your story. So basically, here you are, this kid from Brooklyn. I said to you, what kind of home did your parents create for you and your brother? And you say?
A very, very loving home.
Was it Zionist?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Talked about Israel very often.
Okay.
Very often.
And when was the first time, again we're jumping, that you went to Israel?
About 1981, I believe it was.
Because?
I went with Talia.
Okay.
I had not gone with it.
Okay. Incidentally, we should just tell our audience, you're about to go again. What trip will this be for you?
This will be my 53rd trip.
53rd trip.
That's correct. I started counting in the 20s.
All right. You go to Brandeis.
Yes.
At what point do you feel in your own personal journey you become, as an adult, sensitive to the issues confronting A, world Jewry, and B, the state of Israel?
I would think more so after I graduated from school. I became a little bit, I guess, more mature. When you're in college, your interests are limited, and no sense going into all that. And you become more mature and more understanding of what the world is about. And this, of course, the Six-Day War in '67.
What line of work did you go into?
I'm a lawyer.
Okay.
I went to law school at Loyola School of Law, so it was quite a different scene for me to sit in a classroom with a cross on the wall.
You went from Brandeis to Loyola?
Yeah, that was...
You played basketball at Loyola?
I wish I did. No, I didn't.
By what position did you play?
I was I guess it would be called a 2 today.
Okay.
A guard.
You were a guard, but not necessarily the shooting guard.
Not the one. That would be the 2 or a 3.
Okay, and you loved it?
Of course. It was part of my life.
How many children do you have?
We have 4.
Mazal Tov. Did any of your kids play ball?
No, they did not.
Okay.
No, they did not.
But they know their father loved it?
No, of course. They know it's part of my life.
Okay. So here you are, a lawyer, post both Brandeis and Loyola, and you're saying that something about the maturing process in you brings you to a greater appreciation of both the Jewish people and Israel, Judaism. You know, how would you describe yourself both in terms of Judaism, synagogue life, and how do you define yourself in terms of Israel? Well,
first to describe myself, I would call myself a semi-observant Jew.
Yeah.
All right? But my Judaism and who I am is defined by being Jewish. There's no doubt about it. It's extremely important to me.
Jewish identity is at your core.
The identity is there. There's no doubt about it.
At your core.
Beyond.
Beyond.
There's no doubt about that. Yes. And that's where I'm coming from. How I got involved.
Yeah.
It's the early 80s, mid 80s, and I say to my wife, you know, things are good, doing well. It's time to give back. So what am I interested in? What do I like? I'm interested in sports. I'm interested in the Jewish people. I'm interested in young people in the state of Israel. But the only thing I knew that combined all that were the Maccabi Games. And I didn't know anybody. I just mentioned it offhand. About a month later, we're at a party. And, you know, you could be 100 people in a room, and if your wife says something loud enough, you can hear that. And she says, don't move, I'll be right back, I have to get my husband.
You heard this.
I heard that. So what is she talking to? So she comes over and she introduces me to a gentleman who was long gone out of the organization, and he was involved with the games. And the first thing I did was I became the chairman of open men's basketball for the Pan Am Games in Caracas, Venezuela.
Oh, what fun.
Oh, it was fun. It was amazing fun. And why was it fun? Because I hadn't been aware of where people had come from, how they dispersed throughout the world. And here I am on a bus in Caracas, and I'm sitting next to a guy from Venezuela, and we're talking. And I don't speak Spanish, but his English was good enough to converse. And his name is Julio Ginsburg. All right? And Julio Ginsburg introduces me to Alberto Abramowitz. And I realized that these guys and these people, they came from the same place my people came from. They came from Eastern Europe, which they did, by the way. There was an organization that was identifying where people had come from. And that my ancestors just got on that boat and went straight across. And theirs made a left. And that's how I wound up in Brooklyn, and they wound up in Caracas.
That's a wonderful story.
I mean, it's as obvious as that. It's just, and that was very defining for me, by the way, very defining.
Because?
Well, the same roots, the same background. We could tell the same stories. Yeah, different language, but
yes.
tell the same stories.
Yes, yes.
And we're very fortunate.
When you heard my open, where I talked about how sports somehow transcends, did that resonate for you?
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
And if you had to say it, how would you say it?
I would say that sports is a defining moment that brings people together, especially, as I mentioned before, as a team. When you're a team and you're 18, 17 years of age, you're a team when you're 67 years of age. You're the same guys. Those who have survived into their 70s, they're the same guys. Though you may not have seen them, you're still a team.
There's a bond forever.
There's a bond. But if that bond is created by the Jewish sports program, the Maccabi, it's the same bond, but it has another level of identity.
Yes.
And that
that's
level
perfectly said.
And that level of
Yes.
identity is so important.
I get chills.
It's a tough world we live in, very tough world. And our job is to reach the people, to unify us so we can protect ourselves.
That's beautiful.
And we do it through sports.
All right.
Can I?
Absolutely, go ahead.
You mentioned music and you mentioned art.
Yes.
But those are not team effort. Maybe music to a degree is a team effort, but sports is a team effort. Win or lose, it creates this atmosphere. Men and women, not just the men, the male participants. Very, very important.
Yes.
Incredible.
I want to talk about Maccabi and the Maccabi Games specifically, but I first want to ask you about your wife. You've been married how many years?
36 years.
36 years. And I've met her. She's also very talented in her own right.
Fantastically talented.
Okay, she's a writer.
She's a published author. Her books have been published by HarperCollins, Jerusalem Maiden, a very, very well-known book. She speaks all over the country. She speaks all over the world, in fact, about her book. And a new one is coming out, again published by HarperCollins, called Hotel Moscow. That'll be coming out in June 2015.
Okay, I hope one day she sits in that chair and we talk about some of the things she's done.
You'd be lucky to have her.
I would be lucky to have her. The reason I ask about her now, though, is that I wanted to know the extent to which you tell the story about how you hear your wife say to somebody, because you are not yet involved in the entire Maccabi world, and your wife says, stay right here, and she introduces you to somebody that leads into that. And then you mentioned that she was at the games in Austria. I want to know the extent to which she's been a partner with you in your interest in the Maccabi Games and Maccabi USA, et cetera.
Well, she's been a partner in regards to my interest in the games and, of course, the involvement throughout the world and, of course, within the state of Israel. In regards to her...
What do you mean the state of Israel?
Well, the Maccabi is in
Yes.
Israel, and we have our annual meetings in Israel and all the involvement with the Jewish people from around the world for these games.
Does she share your passion for Israel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm married to an Israeli, and so
Yes.
she does share the passion. Does she share my passion for the sports? The answer is she has no idea one sport from the other. If it doesn't...
But she's happy for you.
She's happy for me. I believe she is, yes.
How did you end up marrying an Israeli?
That's a good question, but we met.
Well, good for you.
We were lucky.
Good for you.
We talk about that very often.
Do you feel lucky?
Oh, very much so. I mean, we memorialized the day we met, so.
You know, one is lucky, I believe, if one feels lucky. What I mean by that is, it means you appreciate the good things that you've had in life and the good fortune you've had in terms of family and children and wife and career. If one is aware of one's own life in that way, I believe it enriches your life enormously. Do you think so?
Absolutely, and I believe our children feel the same way. You know, we're 4 for 4.
Yes, by the way. 4 for 4 meaning?
Our 4 kids married 4 Jewish
That's unheard of these days, Ron.
We've done pretty well.
How do you think that happened?
Part of it had to do with involvement with Maccabi, no doubt about it.
You think so?
Absolutely. My favorite story along that line is that one day our youngest brings home her boyfriend, and my wife says to him, "You know something? Your name is music to my ears." And he looks at her and he says, "Barry?" She says, "No, Goldberg."
One of the things I did want to talk to you about is whether you feel the Maccabi Games, especially for young American Jews, and I've been at events where high school kids are all involved in tryouts for Maccabi events, whether the Maccabi Games, you feel, in some way helps foster Jewish identity among young people in America.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just let me give you somewhat of a background. We had 3,000 applicants for the games in 2013 for the 19th Maccabi. 3,000 applicants. We brought a team of 1,102. All right, 112 teams in 37 different sports, different age groups, different genders. These kids, they know, by the way, the level of competition to make these teams is huge.
Very high.
Very, very high. We bring Olympians, we have Division I athletes, Division III athletes, terrific group of people, terrific. When they make the team, they think they're going to a sports event, which they are. And the countries, we had 77 nations involved, we had 8,500 participants in the games, so it's a major undertaking, and just to bring them, of course, to the USA, $10 million. I'm not exaggerating.
Really?
Yes. And they think they're just going to a sports event, but we have a mandatory Israel Connect program where the athletes, the open and junior athletes, not the masters, open and junior athletes must participate in this 6-day program where they learn about the state of Israel. They travel around, and training is secondary to the program. And that's, of course, we get a lot of heat about that, but training is secondary to the program. And that is what causes a lot of people to say, you know, I love being here. It was a life-changing experience. I hear it all the time. It was amazing. The competition was fantastic. But that 6-day Israel Connect program changed my life.
Mazal Tov. I don't know that many people understand.
They don't. They don't understand. They think we're just about sports.
Right.
They think that we're only there just to run around Israel in short pants.
Right.
That's not why we're there. We're there, yes, that's the hook. That's the hook. But we're there so they can get this experience, and they can come back to the United States and be American Jews who have learned something. And I met a guy fairly recently who came with us to Uruguay in 1991 and played basketball in the basement of a church during our Pan American Games. All right, and I met him just a couple of years ago, and he found out who I was. He walked up to me, he shook my hand, he said, "You know, I was 16 years of age when I came to Uruguay to play basketball as a junior. It changed my life." I said, "Jason, you must be joking. You changed my life." And I never forgot, you know, stories like that. They're very important.
It's so important that you have a chance to say this, because I want to reiterate what you've just said. If you ask most people what the Maccabi Games are about, they have no clue about this dimension. And what you're doing is building the Jewish future, and you're using sports. And I'm not minimizing why kids or adults, by the way, are participating all the time. The people who are involved in the Maccabi Games do it because they love sports, one way or the other. But what you're doing goes so far beyond sports. You are using sports to create the Jewish future, Ron. You understand?
I'm very well aware of it. And you made a very good point there. There are some people who are within our organization who are only about sports, which is okay. We can utilize them. They serve a purpose. It's important because the credibility of the program is very, very important, the level of competition. But it's got to go well beyond that to make this whole thing worthwhile, make it understood of what we're doing. And so many shidduchs, oh my goodness gracious.
Oh, tell me one.
Yeah, I could tell you my wife, for one of the games, I made her the shidduch chairman. And she introduced this couple, Leslie Carlson and Jordan Schlachter.
So people meet.
They
met and build a life together.
And they build a life together, and now their kids are getting older, and hopefully in another 10 years they'll be old enough to try out for the Maccabi. But we have so many stories like that, so many wonderful stories.
Okay. Your own journey within the organization, you said you started really working in basketball.
Correct.
Okay. Now you had the USA division, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How does that happen?
Well, I've been involved for so many years. I sat on the board. So I was an officer for many years. I was the vice president of Maccabi World Union, which is our umbrella organization, for 10 years. So, I mean, I've been involved for that many years. But
okay.
Still involved within the U.S. and in the sports area.
Okay.
And helping.
And my reason for asking is, I want you to explain to the audience, what does the fact that you're involved in the USA division, what does that mean in terms of how the Maccabi Games are experienced and how young people, and I keep saying young people, it's not only young people. I mean, you know, what I'm saying here is public knowledge, but the president of Comcast it was huge in squash in the Maccabi. Brian Roberts loves squash, but he plays in the Maccabi Games, yes?
Not just once, 3 times.
Yes.
Brian loved it, and Brian's just a terrific guy.
Okay,
really
so
is.
It's not simply kids, it's adults as well. But I wanted you to describe, the reason I mentioned you become the head of USA division, is what does that mean on the grassroots level for people who are watching us right now?
Of course. Let me give you the structure. Maccabi World Union is like the International Olympic Committee. They're the umbrella organization for the Maccabi Games. Underneath that umbrella are regional organizations. I'm the head of, as president of Maccabi USA, I'm also the head of the North American desk, or whatever. And as a result, there's the Australian desk, there's the European desk, the South American desk. And as a result, all these nations are getting together under the aegis of the Israeli organizers who put the games on. Now, within Israel themselves, they have an organizing committee to bring their own team. That's separate and apart, just like any other, just like the Olympics are organized.
Okay. We have become aware of how much politics affects the U.S. Olympic Committee and Olympic Games. Does Israeli Maccabi suffer from the same kind of problems?
It depends upon your definition of politics. There's different opinions, and that certainly is a political issue. I would think not. I would think there are some people that think we should only be about sports and not get involved in the existential issues. I'm not one of those people.
Yes.
In fact, if that's going to be considered a political issue, you'll be finding me strongly fighting on the Zionist point of view. That we have to be more than just sports. When something happens, as it did in Gaza, we have to be there to support the state of Israel. In 2001, we had an incredible disturbance within the organization. And 2001 was the beginning of the second Intifada. And if you remember the Dolphinarium bombing, which was the team was going to leave in 3 weeks.
That's Tel Aviv.
That's correct, in Tel Aviv. And the outlook was different. The thought process was somewhat different at that time. People didn't want us to go. Here we had a delegation going of about 600 people. And people didn't want us to go, and it created havoc within Maccabi World Union, the umbrella organization, and havoc within the nations that had to participate.
They were
to make a
afraid
long
for
story
kids?
short, the United States decided that we will be going, and as a result, Every nation went except one.
Which one didn't go? Didn't matter. Fabulous, though, yes? But was it because they were afraid?
It was because we shouldn't be involved in politics. I couldn't believe that word was being used under those circumstances.
Yes.
I couldn't believe that word. I can understand people were concerned about the safety of their children. I had no problem with that. I felt very comfortable that the Israelis could do the job security-wise, and they certainly did. What bothered us and was extremely disturbing was those who didn't want to go and tried very, very hard to talk those who did want to go not to go. I'm not a psychiatrist, but you can use your own judgment in something like that.
And their objection was political.
And their objection was political in addition to the danger, but their objection was overridden, thank goodness. And as a result, yes, we did lose some participants, and we had to put something we worked on for 3.5 years, we put back together again in 3 weeks. And I've always said it took 5 years off my life, but you know. But we put it back together in 3 weeks, and if we hadn't done that, and the Prime Minister was the Prime Minister Sharon at the time, if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be where we are today, as being the world's third largest international sporting event.
How has, in general, the State of Israel and the Prime Minister's office either helped or in any way failed to help what you're doing?
They've been very supportive. Good. They really have been very supportive,
wonderful.
both financially, there's no doubt about that, very important, and very supportive and understanding how important it is to get all those people there and to create this next generation.
How do you support the Maccabi Games?
You mean the USA? Or you?
No, I mean the entirety. I mean, how are you funded?
We're funded by private donations.
Are you nonprofit?
We are absolutely.
Right.
We're a nonprofit. We require the help of the American Jewish community to support those within our program that we support. In other words, it cost almost $10 million to bring the Team USA. However, we were supporting $2.5 million of that by raising funds, because every athlete has to pay or raise, no matter who they are, pay or raise their support. However, if they made the team and they couldn't afford it, we have a scholarship program, and that is extremely important. So we subsidize between $2.5 to $3 million of that. And fortunately, we've had some very, very great people step up.
That's lovely.
Stuart Weitzman, I know you know.
Of course.
Stuart Weitzman was a participant in table tennis. One of the great guys in the Jewish world. I can tell you that right now.
Yes, yes.
And when he handed me a check and said, Ronnie, Stuart Weitzman handed me a check and said, Ronnie, I had the greatest time in my life, one of the most important events in my life, and handed me a check for $1 million. I said, Stuart, I wish you had more than one life. Wonderful guy.
Fabulous story. And how about the Arab world and European nations? And I'm wondering, you know, we've talked about Austria, and now you're going to Germany for the games, and we know the State of Israel is very supportive. Do you face any, are there any problems created by any other nations of the world who in some way see the Maccabi Games as a threat to them?
I haven't experienced anything like that.
Okay.
No, I have not. Fortunately, I have not. Every nation will have their own concerns, their own problems. Unfortunately, to be perfectly frank with you, in addition to the anti-Semitism that exists around the world, but to participate in the games, a big problem is always the financial aspect of it. But they complain, but they put it together.
Okay.
The South Africans will still bring their 350.
Yes. Let me ask the question that way then. In addition to the United States, what are the other countries that participate in a significant way in the overall Maccabi Games?
The participation level is, as I said, we're 1,100. The Australians will bring 550. The Canadians will bring about 500. The Brits, 400 to 450, somewhere in that area. They're all out there. They're all out there. You know, once in a while you'll get some small nation will bring 2 or 3, but you know, that's what it's about.
Okay.
Hong Kong participates.
No.
Yes. Maybe they're all Israelis, but that's another issue.
By the way, we should make sure everybody does understand. We're talking about athletes who are Jewish.
Athletes who are Jewish, and every country has their own definition of what a Jewish athlete is. Some are more stringent about their regulations, and some are less. And then the question is, well, if the athlete has to be Jewish, what about the coach? Because a lot of the smaller countries can't get a qualified coach who is Jewish. So there you have to be somewhat flexible. Okay. Because it's extremely important that the coaching be at that higher level.
So what's the definition in America?
I knew you were going to ask that. Ours is you put on the form that you're Jewish. You say that you were bar mitzvahed. You celebrate the Passover, and
wait a minute. You're telling me a secular Jew can't participate in the Maccabi Games?
Well, he says he's Jewish. He was born Jewish. His mother was Jewish.
He never had a bar mitzvah ceremony.
And then the last requirement is that you don't hold yourself out to be another religion.
Okay.
So the secular Jew is Jewish.
Okay, but if he did not have a bar mitzvah ceremony,
that's why we have a bar mitzvah ceremony at the Israel Connect program.
Right, you do it for them.
We do it for them, and believe me, they all, we ask them to sign on beforehand. And let's say last time we had 800 people at the Israel Connect program, and I think, if I remember correctly, the number is like 75 people signed on for the bar and bar mitzvah. Well, when they got there, they realized how important it was. We had 450 people on that stage. I mean, it was the Torah wasn't big enough for everybody, but we had a.
Oh, that's an extraordinary accomplishment as well.
It's amazing. It is amazing, and it's hard to get the word out. Yes, we have our videos, but they'll see it, and it's got to be in perspective. You have to live it to enjoy it.
I'm so thrilled that you're able to talk about it here on JBS. And it raises a question, again, this is really a question for this table, but I'm concerned about the extent to which people who are hearing you right now, and within our audience, you have the entire spectrum of the Jewish community. You have very observant Jews, you have non-observant Jews. The one thing that joins them is what you talked about, this enormous sense of Jewish pride and Jewish identity, and they want to be part of the Jewish people. And my own feeling is that every Jew, Ron, I don't care where they fall in the Jewish spectrum, every Jew finds his or her own way, finds a way of being comfortable with whatever Torah means to them, and finds whatever degree of observance or lack of observance, but how they relate to the Jewish people.
I certainly hope so.
And I want, what we're doing here at JBS Shalom TV is trying to create a home where people feel comfortable no matter where they are on the Jewish spectrum. If you care about the Jewish people, you care about the future of Jewish life, you care about the state of Israel, you belong in this community. And then you find your own expression. And nobody should tell another Jew, you're not Jewish enough. No, we all find our own way. So what I'm asking from you now is, if there's a young kid who is excited about expressing his athleticism through the Maccabi Games, is there any litmus test, or if somebody says, I'm a Jew, my parents are Jewish, I'm involved in the Jewish vision, but I'm not an observant Jew, is that Jew welcome in the Maccabi Games?
Only if he makes the team. If he makes the team or she makes the team,
right,
they are welcome.
They're welcome. Those are good enough.
They have to be. Like
right.
I said, 3,000. Yes. I like the joke. We had 3,000 applicants. 1,100 people made the team. That means 1,900 lawsuits. I mean, give me a break here. This is not easy. You know what we're dealing with. So it's always an issue.
But my point, if you're a good enough athlete, as far as the Jewishness is concerned, you feel you're a Jew, you've come from a Jewish world, and you're part of the Jewish people. Beyond that, the Maccabi Games puts no...
The food will be kosher.
Yes.
There'll be if they're Shomer Shabbat, that will be observed. Of course, there's no competition on Shabbat. And if they're Shomer Shabbat, they will be provided for to get to where they have to go.
Okay. And if they're not Shomer Shabbat?
They're part of the program.
Exactly. And if they've never had a bar bat mitzvah ceremony, what you're saying is there's an opportunity through the Maccabi Games for them to experience something of that.
That absolutely.
Isn't that remarkable?
I've been saying that for a long period of time.
I'm saying it again. Ron, nobody knows this about the Maccabi Games.
Well, let's hope that this they'll learn something from
Exactly.
this.
And I want to be there. I want you to give me the opportunity to put on television as much of this uniqueness that is not simply sports. And you and I both love sports, but it's not simply sports. That's your message today.
I've been saying that for 30 years. That's how I feel about it.
How many Maccabi Games have you seen?
This will be my 8th. In 17, it'll be my 8th Maccabi.
Okay. So think for one moment.
And that's every 4 years. So
yes, I understand. Think of 1 or 2 moments that just were thrilling for you and that are somehow etched in your memory that come out of the Maccabi Games that you've experienced.
Well, I mentioned, of course, what happened in Vienna, and that was
extraordinary.
That was an extraordinary moment. Marching in as president of the Maccabi USA, at the head of the line, behind the flag bearers, and seeing the excitement of the people in the stands, the parents, the Israelis, all the visitors, it really moves me. It really does. And in this past 2013 games, the opening ceremonies were in Jerusalem, and the stands were closer to the as you marched in, and I was somewhat overwhelmed. What I love to do is marching at the head and start walking backwards, and looking behind me and seeing these the 1,000 people behind me. Plus, it's not just the team; then the organizers march in also. Sometimes there's about 1,500 people behind me, Americans. And we go around this huge stadium, and they're still coming in, and I'm seeing these smiling faces. And I feel pretty proud of not just my involvement, but the involvement of our huge organizing staff to put this together, and our fantastic administrative staff that we have in Philadelphia.
Do you ever see tears?
All the time.
You know, I think I'd be weeping at this. There's something extraordinary about it.
That's my goal.
Where do the rabbis march when they come in? I'm just joking. But, you know, I could just imagine that anybody who is marching in with you.
Yes, I've had Olympians march. We've had several Olympians. And I had an Olympian walk up to me and said, "Ron, I just have to let you know, I've marched into 2 Olympic Games, and I'm marching into this Maccabi. Nothing compared to this. The Olympics did not compare to this. This was more emotional to me than marching into the Olympics."
I have one general question for you. You and your wife have built this wonderful Jewish family. You have 4 kids, all of whom now are building Jewish lives for themselves. Ron, as you look at American Jewish life today, not simply from a sports angle or the Maccabi Games, what gives you concern about our Jewish future, and what gives you hope?
Concern is failure to understand the dangers in the world that we have today, and willing to either look the other way or a level of acceptance. I think that's one of the largest dangers that we have. The hope is that we can reach enough people, and that they're out there who understand the issues and are not willing to accept non-involvement. Mm-hmm. But I'm seeing too much non-involvement, mm-hmm. and that's scary.
And it's not only among young people.
Oh, I am very well aware, very well aware. Mm-hmm. You know, we were the first organization to come out publicly just before the Gaza war that I saw to support the state of Israel. And I got a lot of responses, but I got some unbelievably negative responses from people. Really? Supporting Israel in the Gaza war, I got some unbelievably horrible responses.
How disappointing.
Yeah, it didn't hurt me because I felt that the person was an idiot, but I'm not going to get any. But It was disappointing, yes. Yeah, and not hurtful, but disappointing.
Yes. And what gives you any sense of optimism now about Jewish life today?
That we're just not going to. We're not going to accept. We're not going to accept the behavior of the bad behavior of others, and we will be there to either fight back, both the necessary physical way, or fight back educationally, fight back spiritually. That's the only way I could think of it. I can't think of that will give me hope. It really does. I'm concerned about my kids and my grandchildren. I really am, very much so.
Yes, and you have spent a lot of time in Israel, and again, you're about to take your 52nd trip.
53rd.
53rd. You've been there 52 times. Amazing. You know, many American Jews haven't been there once.
I know.
Ron. If you had to explain to people who are watching right now, what thrills you about Israel, having, again, nothing to do with sports, how would you describe for people what it is about the Israeli experience and the Israeli people that you find so wonderful?
The mindset is what the mindset. I like to joke, but it's not a joke, it's a reality. I'm on a plane, I'm arriving in Tel Aviv, I'm looking out the window, and I look down and I say, well, wait a minute, I was just here a few months ago. That wasn't there. That building was, there's so much going on. You drive down the Ayalon, all right? You look to your left. I counted 27 cranes to my left of building, of expansion, which is an indication of hope, of the future. Yeah, you know,
that's such an important point you've made. The building reflects a Jewish optimism within the state of Israel, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
It's not simply that we're happy that people are, you know, building buildings. It's because of what it says.
Well, they're building residences.
Yes.
They're building homes. They're building homes for themselves, their families, and for the incoming immigrants that unfortunately might have to come there from other nations. But it's more than that. It's also, I mean, look at the startup corporations, the startup companies. Look at the ingenuity. But that is exciting. It's amazing. It makes you proud to be Jewish.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't identify in regards to their knowledge, but I can identify where they're coming from maybe from the educational background that I got from my parents' input. I don't know. Maybe they're getting the same thing, education, and that's extremely important.
Mm-hmm. And when I'm in Israel, I am always impressed with the character of the people. And what I mean by that is, you know, every now and then you'll hear a certain kind of flippant description of Israelis. And they're tough, and the Sabra image where they're prickly on the outside but sweet on the inside, and they're impatient. And my experience is that the Israeli people are very good at heart, and they're living in extraordinarily complex times. And sometimes they have to face things which seem more upsetting to American Jews than when you're in Israel. When you're in Israel, the idea of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict seems to be far less on people's minds than it is within American Jews, and how much it's on American Jews' mind. They just live their life, and they care about their children and their grandchildren and enjoying themselves.
Absolutely.
But also, there is an idealism. I think that's what I wanted you to speak about. There's an idealism in the state of Israel that you meet when you simply are talking to Israeli families, and you have the left and the right expressed in Israel, but overall there is this marvelous, positive, you know, again, this idea of hope that you have described in relationship to the building. There's this optimism and a certain sense of idealism. And I was wondering whether you've ever experienced that yourself.
Well, I'm trying to make it as simplistic as I possibly can. Every Saturday in the summertime, the beaches are packed. Yes. The beaches are fantastic. You know that. Every Saturday, they're there. They're out with their families. They're out with their children. It's a beautiful scene. It's a fantastic scene. And it's not just one location in Herzliya. It's along the coast.
Yes.
Is that a feeling of optimism?
Yes.
Maybe that's
Yes.
too simplistic on my part.
No, it's lovely.
But it creates something.
It's
it creates
lovely.
that and the, and then all the talk and all the going on and all the kids in the water and all the I have a very optimistic feeling about the state of Israel, as long as they can stay strong, and that's the important thing.
Ron Carner, you are fabulous. You have a wonderful, wonderful soul. I give your wife some of the credit, but it's been wonderful meeting you. I should say before we conclude, if anybody wants to learn more about Maccabi USA, how do they do it? Is there a website? Is there a phone number? Let us know. What is it?
Yes, Maccabi USA, www.maccabi.com, 215-561-6900. Just hit the 0 button and speak to the operator. Ask for our executive director, Jed Margolis. Fantastic. We're very, very fortunate to have a tremendously qualified, great guy to be our executive director.
Thank you for being here at this table.
My pleasure.
It has been an honor meeting you. You're just delightful. You go from strength to strength now, my friend. Kol tuva hatzlacha, only the best. And I hope from time to time you'll come and sit at this table. And what I really hope is you'll help me make sure JBS covers what you're doing so that I can show it to the American people on JBS.
I think they would love it, and I hope that you can join us.
Thank you very, very much. Ron Carner, who again is the president of Maccabi USA. And, you heard him. We both say the same thing. It's amazing how sports can bring people together. Ron points out, especially in team sports, but people who share sports together understand each other in a way that sometimes they can't understand each other in any other context. And the Maccabi Games and Maccabi USA has done extraordinary work on behalf of the Jewish people and for the state of Israel. And the future that we all hope is as glorious as it can possibly be for the Jewish people or for mankind as a whole. So it's been an honor meeting him. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have to anything Ron Carner had to say. Please email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall, tweet me. I look forward to hearing from you. And if you want to be in touch with Ron yourself, you can send me an email and I will forward your email on to him. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'chaim, my friends, to life.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV on JBS with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, P.O. Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.